happy to deliver a presentation, and thanks Xprim for sending me an invitation. Well, the topic of my presentation will be to give you an overview about the motor third-party liability development in Western Balkan non-EU countries. Well, I'm happy for my presentation that it was not any data or any kind of remarks mentioned today during the whole presentation that we had for the Western Balkan countries. So I think that will be a unique opportunity for all of you to give more knowledge about what are the trends and development in the motor third-party liability insurance in the Western Balkan countries. I will deliver some data for 6 countries, and those are Bosnia and Herzegovina, Montenegro, Serbia, Albania, Kosovo, and Macedonia. To be politically correct, because of the political circumstances in Bosnia and Herzegovina, there is a 2 entities, Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina and Republic of Serbia. They have 2 supervisory authorities, and I collect data from both of them. So besides that, we have 6 countries, but the data are for, let's say, for 7, I cannot say countries, but it's for 7 jurisdictions. The data that I collect, for some of the data I have 7 years trends, and for some of the key indicators I have 3 years data. And this data exclusively I found through our close cooperation among the supervisory authorities. So some of the data are not public available, and it's very hard to find in the country insurance associations, or are not publicly available on the website of the supervisory authorities. But however, I have permission from the supervisory authorities from all 7 jurisdictions that I can share with you all this data. And I think that this is one of the first assessment or exercise about obtaining some quality key indicators where we can measure the insurance development of MTPL. The total volume of business in the Western Balkan countries for the MTPL, it's around 1.5 billion euro. There are 68 companies in all these 7 jurisdictions. In terms of insurance development, the Western Balkan is less developed insurance market at European level, with very low insurance penetration and very low density rate. The rank is between 0.7% penetration rate in Kosovo, for example, and the most, or let's say the developed country is Serbia, with 1.57% penetration rate. In terms of, in respect with density rate, the lowest is in Kosovo with 25 euro density rate, and the highest in Serbia with 76 density rate. One of the main features when we are talking about the MTPL, it's extremely high market concentration, which means very high competitiveness among the players, especially when we take into consideration the size of population and the density of vehicles, or the number of vehicles per 1,000 inhabitants. Even we have strong market concentration than in Western European countries. So this strong market concentration actually reflect in the business model and business behavior of the insurance companies in these markets. And later on, you will see when I will explain the level of profitability and some other data that these this high competition, it's really affected the business performance of the companies. MTPL is the most important line of business. You can see that this line of business is between, let's say, for example, in Serbia, 35%. In the case of Albania, it's 61% of the total volume of the insurance business. Now I will share with you some insight about the legal environment. All these 7 jurisdictions follow and implement the EU Motor Insurance Directive, but not all of the countries in full scope had introduced the Motor Insurance Directive. Why is that? The reason is because of different stages of political processes for EU accession, different market environment, and some differences in the regulatory framework environment. For example, with exception of Albania, the other countries still they have regulated tariff. Another case is that, for example, Kosovo is not yet part of the Council of Bureau, and Kosovo drivers, if they drive out of Kosovo, for each country that they drive, they must buy border insurance, except when they drive in Albania, Macedonia, and Serbia, they have special agreement for common recognizing of domestic MTPL insurance. But if we have, for example, drivers from Austria driving to Kosovo, the green card will not be recognized, and the Austrian cars must buy border insurance when they enter into the Kosovo. So Kosovo is a specific case. Okay. Then, in terms of regulation, as I said, that except Albania, we have regulated tariff, but different implementation of this regulatory tariff. Some of the countries have fixed rate. Some of the countries, like my country, Macedonia, have regulated tariff, but there is a rank, minimum and maximum. Also, there is a differential among the minimum insurance sum, and this minimum insurance sum are very below the average at the EU level. So this is another very important aspect. As I said, only Albania has liberalized the MTPL pricing, and they introduced the liberalization in 2011. On the survey that I conduct with our communication with other supervisory authorities, all jurisdictions said that they have in their plan to liberalize the tariff, but only one country replied that they have a very clear strategy when they will implement, and that is Montenegro. Already they have a new draft law for MTPL, and this law now it has a public hearing, and most probably this year Montenegro will liberalize the MTPL tariff, which is not still the case with other countries. For example, Bosnia and Herzegovina has idea to liberalize in 2020, but other countries, including Macedonia, still not have clear vision when they will liberalize the tariff. All the countries have implemented bonus-malus system, and they have centralized a database for insurance policies and for the claims. The only exclusion is Bosnia and Herzegovina, which do not have centralized system, but each company, they have their own system database with the claims. Regarding to the green card, also we have some differences among the countries. For example, In case of Macedonia, Albania and Kosovo, we have single green card policy and single premium for green card. So there is no common MTPL policy which include the green card premium. Now let's move to some data regarding to the recent developments of the premium and the claims. All 7 jurisdictions are on this graph, but I draw with some general conclusions about the trends, and this is the 7-year average. The average annual premium growth was between 2 and 5%, with exception of Albania and Serbia, and later I will explain why. So the other 5 jurisdictions, they have average annual growth between 2 and 5. And why Serbia and Croatia they show highest average growth rate. In the case of Albania, it's obvious because of the liberalization. When they introduced liberalization 2011, you can see from this slide that in the first 3 years we have downturn trends in the pricing, and then since 2013 the price went up. This was one of the most challenging situations that the Albanian Supervisory Authority was faced, because the average price were so low that that the financial condition of the local companies was ruined. And then the Albanian Supervisory Authority take some very important measures against this negative trend, and since then the prices go up. In the case of Serbia, there is a regulated tariff, but in 2014 the government of Serbia decided to increase the price, to increase the tariff, and that's why we have more than 7% annual average growth in the case of Serbia. The driving factor of the MTPL increase for all 7 jurisdictions, already explained you about Albania and Serbia, but for the other countries, is the increased number of new vehicles. Or the next slide, who show the number of contracts or the number of insurance policies sold, explain that the new vehicles, the new registered vehicles, actually is the main driving factor for this positive growth rate. Also, all the countries, they have strong willingness, which also was pushed by the industry and by the government, to fight against uninsured vehicle, because uninsured vehicle, it's a huge issue. And I can say that in the last at least 5 years, we have some strong commitments by the governments to tackle with the uninsured vehicle, and you can see with these numbers that also the decreasing number of uninsured vehicles actually has contribution to the premium growth and to the increase of the number of insurance policy sold. The margin between the premiums and gross claims paid, as you can see from this slide, shows that gross claims paid are below 50% of the premium. However, this doesn't mean that MTPL is a profitable business. Later on, I will show with some other indicators, and I will prove that it's not really profitable business. As I said, the average annual growth of the insurance policies sold is between 2 and 5%. The highest growth has Albania with 5.2, and the lowest growth in terms of insurance policies sold has Serbia with 1.9%. If you look in the number of claims that were reported, you can say that we don't have significant movements in the number of claims, which means that the frequency of the reported claims was very stable, and the most driven factor why we don't have increased number of the claims reported, I would say that in the last 10 years, all the governments in the Balkan countries, they invest a lot of money into construction of new road, new highway, and the governments also, they have very strong willingness to increase the capacity of the traffic safety rules. And of course the policeman and the Minister of Interior Affairs is very much dedicated to punish the bad drivers. So all this actually reflected, all this reflection actually shows that we have some flat line of the number of the claims reported. Now, this is interesting slide that we can have comparative analysis between the average gross written premium and the average gross claim paid. The minimum average premium for all type of vehicles has Serbia with 104 euro. This is for 2017. However, I have data for the last 3 years structured by the type of vehicles: passenger car, then trucks and buses. All the numbers are not shown here, but if someone is interested, I can send the data in the table, and you can have more close look about the average premium and the average gross claim paid. The highest premium, average premium for the last year have Bosnia and Herzegovina with 154 euro. So we can, I will comment only for all vehicles the average premium, not structured by the type of vehicles. And the general conclusion is that in the last 3 years we have very low correction on the average premium, and most of the country has some minimal upward correction. Only 2 countries have minor downside trend, and those countries are Montenegro and Kosovo. In the average gross claim paid, we have situation where the minimum gross claim paid has Montenegro with 860 euro, and Albania has double size or the highest average gross paid claim with 1,600 euro. However, almost all countries have recorded very slow growth on the average gross paid claim. Without statistics about the frequency of the traffic accident and severity, I cannot draw conclusions about this flat line of the average gross claim paid. However, I'm talking now as a supervisor, we have some concern about the efficiency and effectiveness on claims handling processes based on the increased number of the complaints that we receive from the policyholder. So all these circumstances will show us that the claim capacity of the companies, because we do not have any important movements outward, that means that the claim capacity is something that we have to really close look. Not all countries have data about the structure of the gross claims paid divided in material and bodily injuries. Only 4 countries have these statistics: Montenegro, Albania, Kosovo, and Macedonia. And these are data only for 2017. Macedonia and Montenegro have the material claims are bigger than the bodily injury, comparing with Albania and Kosovo. However, based on the discussion that we have and exchanges the information, we have increased trend on bodily injury claims, increased trend on court cases, and increased inflation of court decision for the same body injuries. The same body injuries before 5 years, and today court decision is really huge differences. Even more, for the same injuries, different regional courts decisions are different. So all these trends will show up that bodily injury will become more and more important part of the structure of the claims paid. Now, sharing the information with the supervisory authorities and with the industry association, I'm talking about Albania, Macedonia, and Serbia, there is some idea or initiative to find solution about implementation of the criteria for bodily injury. My supervisory authority that I represent, last year we realized one big project with the Spanish authority, including MTPL business and some transfer of knowledge about this experience in Spain. And we were really impressed about very complex MTPL law that they have the Spanish, where the criteria for non-material damage are introduced in this law. And I think this will be very good path where the companies will find their own interest, but of course, and the policyholders must find their interest. But however, we need more clear play rules on the field. Okay. Now, I came to the ratio. Unfortunately, not all jurisdictions have latest data for 2017, but however, there are no big differences between 2016 and 2017. What is the most important conclusion about these ratios among all the countries? In 5 jurisdictions, we have higher expense ratio over claims ratio. Only Montenegro and Serbia are different cases. So this shows some concern about the market behavior of the players, and also this is direct in line with all disadvantages when you have regulated tariff, which is really absurd to have higher expenses than higher claims. And especially this is a real case in Albania, for example, in Republic of Srpska, also in Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina, but also in Macedonia. When you have regulated tariff, when you have very high market concentration, very high competition on the market, then you cannot fight with the pricing, but you can fight with bigger commission, you will fight with marketing costs, with high salaries, and there are some other very tricky issues and some gymnastics that the company plays, and to avoid the regulatory burden because of the regulated tariff. So here, what is, from my point of view, the solution that we are not afraid to liberalize the tariff system. As soon as we liberalize, and as soon the supervisory authorities have enough capacity to follow the financial health of the companies, especially with special attention to the level of technical provision, then that will be successful tool how we can fight against possible troubles on the market. Okay, and now I will finish with the last data about the distribution channel. Again, not all countries can provide detailed statistics about the distribution channels in the separate line of businesses. Only 4 countries have these statistics. As you can see that all countries have different pattern in terms of the sales channels and different market practice in their jurisdictions. You can see that Montenegro and Macedonia, they have open space for different distribution channels in their local market, which is not a case, for example, in Kosovo, where only direct sale is allowed to sell NTPL. In the Republic of Srpska, 90% is also sell only by the direct sales. In Montenegro and Macedonia, as I mentioned, you have different sales channels present into the market. This is due only with the regulation. So the regulation imposed this structure of the sales channels. So this was just overview for you to have more insight about the Western Balkan countries. And because we have panel discussion, then I will share with you what will be the next challenges for the region. So thank you very much for your